In 1997, when AOL CDs were your internet, and if you wanted to Google something, you had to ask Jeeves. One movie dared to ask, what if your boss was Satan, and he's better at your job than you? Meet Kevin Lomax, a lawyer who's never lost a case until he meets his new performance review proctor, the devil himself. Al Pacino is John Milton, a CEO who puts the hell in corporate hellscape. His penthouse has an infinity pool, his business cards are embossed, and his vibe screams, I own your soul. Keanu Reeves' southern accent is so bad, it's practically a demonic possession. Charlize Theron plays the wife who notices her husband's new gig comes with red flags and actual demons. This isn't horror. This is the ultimate toxic workplace documentary. Watch Milton's management style, unlimited PTO, in eternal torment, team building retreats to hell, PowerPoint presentations on free will that last way too long, The Devil's Advocate, where evil wears a suit, crushes soul quotas, and still loses because he can't stop monologuing. Rated R for Keanu's accent, Pacino's unhinged rants, and corporate ladder climbing that's literally infernal because vanity's our favorite sin too.
Oh, hi, Mark. So why specifically project management and leadership?
Because that's what the book is about.
Why is the book about that?
It's a made-up tale.
7 sacred lessons from the School of Hard Knocks.
This one was invented by a writer.
I learned the hard way. Actually, it was a good learning experience.
It's a total fabrication. It never happened.
It's the Hard Knock University podcast, where real talk meets real lessons, and we all graduate with honors in the School of Life.
Wretched, isn't it?
Calling all musicians and industry pros. Do you want to turn your hard knocks into breakthroughs? Well, Season 2 of the Hard Knock University podcast is proud to be sponsored by SMG Academy, the ultimate music industry mentorship platform founded by 20-year veteran Mark Sebi. SMG Academy delivers real-world training from touring strategies to publishing secrets straight from the trenches of the Texas music scene. Whether you're an artist, a manager, a songwriter, it doesn't matter. SMG's courses and community will fast-track your success. Are you ready to level up? Visit smgacademy.online and use code HKU2025 for 15% off of your enrollment. SMG Academy, where hustle meets harmony. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Hard Knock University podcast. I'm your host, Mark Caples, joined today with my co-host, Seth Caples, and repeat offender, Chris Day. Welcome to the show, Chris.
Thank you very much, Mark.
Chris last joined us when we did the Thanos episode. That was a great episode. It had some audio quality issues that I apologize for. I don't think we're going to have any of those issues this time because here in the Leadership Knox studio, we have one heck of a huge upgrade. New mics all the way around. These Shure SM7DBs are killer. I've got everything ran into an awesome mixer, preamps going. We can hear ourselves. Man, I'm feeling good about it. How about you guys?
Feeling good.
Today, we're talking about The Devil's Advocate, the 1997 movie with Keanu Reeves, Al Pacino, and Charlize Theron. This movie came out October 17th, 1997. That same month, I Know What You Did Last Summer also came out. And it's also the same year that the first movie breakdown that we did came out, Austin Powers International Man of Mystery. So we're back to 1997. That month, that year, in the headlines, we had some financial anxiety. Asia was melting down. There was an Asian financial crisis. The currencies in Thailand, Indonesia, and South Korea were collapsing. Entire governments were in panic mode. Steve Jobs made a comeback. Apple had just acquired NEXT earlier that year, which brought Steve Jobs back into the company. The Apple stock at the time was only $20 a share.
Wow. It only got in back then.
Yeah, nobody knew the the colored iMacs or iPods were about to save the company. Bill Clinton was still president, wrapping up his second term. Monica Lewinsky hadn't yet become a household name, but it was brewing. In theaters, I Know What You Did Last Summer actually beat The Devil's Advocate. Boogie Nights was in the theaters, as well as 7 Years in Tibet, featuring Brad Pitt. On the radio, Elton John's remake of Candle in the Wind for Princess Diana just dropped and was absolutely everywhere. The Notorious B.I.G. had died earlier in the year. Third Eye Blind, Hanson, the Spice Girls, and Puff Daddy were ruling the airwaves, and that is one hell of a chaotic mix, in my opinion. In tech, Windows 95 was old news. Windows 98 was in beta. Dial-up modems were still a thing. AOL CDs were falling out of magazines when you picked them up. And Google didn't exist yet. If you wanted to search, you were probably using Yahoo or Ask Jeeves. Bless your heart. In the market, the Dow Jones was around 8,000. People thought that was a big deal. Amazon was barely 2 years old and had just expanded beyond books. In notable births, Kylie Jenner was born August 10th, 1997, and Sabrina Carpenter would have been born 2 years later in 1999. Honestly, in October 1997, there wasn't a whole lot of celebrity births. I couldn't find anybody. But I guess the stork took some PTO that week.
That's what happened.
In notable deaths, we lost Princess Diana on August 31st, 1997, which was probably the biggest global headline of that year. We lost Mother Teresa September 5th of 1997. Gianni Versace, July 15th of 1997, was murdered in Miami. That was a big media circus. There was conspiracy theories, and these days we have a bunch of Netflix dramatizations to document that one.
You could say the devil was at work.
You could say that.
You really set the stage for these movies, man. The time,
Yeah, you gotta set up where we were in the world when the movie came out to give it some context. Some fun facts and some behind the scenes nuggets about The Devil's Advocate. Al Pacino didn't want to do it at first.
Correct.
He turned it down like 5 times. He thought the script was too on the nose with all the religious themes. So they rewrote parts of the script to make the devil more charming, more manipulative, and more lawyerly.
He was fantastic, man. Fantastic in that role.
I think that also he had a problem with the fact that the first draft was like real CGI heavy.
Yeah.
He didn't like that.
Once they made the character of John Milton a little more CEO, master salesman-y, Pacino finally signed on. Keanu Reeves actually took a pay cut in order to make it happen.
$2 million.
Yeah.
A $2 million cut.
He's done that before.
Yeah,
I guess he believed in the film.
Well, he wanted to work with Pacino.
Well,
Yeah.
sure.
He turned down a movie for this movie. It's not that he turned it down.
Yeah,
He turned it down, but
there was like an action movie. He'd just done an action movie.
Speed.
Well, no. Speed 2 is what he turned down.
Right, Speed 2 is what he turned down. Yes.
Yeah. He had just done a different action movie. Didn't want to do Speed 2 because, and dodged the bullet there because Speed 2 is garbage.
Sure.
And chose this one instead. Smart move.
I'm trying to remember what he turned down. Doesn't matter. But yeah, he didn't want to do 2 action movies.
Moving on, the title is literally the job. Devil's Advocate is a real term from the Catholic Church, advocatus diaboli, where someone who was assigned to argue against a candidate for sainthood. And in this case, the role was metaphorically and literally accurate. Pacino's character is the devil arguing for your soul.
But isn't the term used in like you're arguing for something even though you don't believe it?
Yeah, I use the term all the time whenever we're just like shooting the breeze and drinking trash and talking mash. I'll be like, hey, I'm just playing devil's advocate here, talking about I'm
not saying
I'm wanting to have a conversation about something. So I'm bringing up points that I might not necessarily believe in, but you got to bring up these points to really dive into the themes and the topics.
Sure, from the other side of the fence.
Which is what Kevin Lomax is doing the whole movie, every case. You can see the moral dilemma in his acting.
Certainly, from the beginning, you can see that he's having issues, making the decisions from the beginning.
You can see his moral code happening.
And you see it fall away.
Pacino's John Milton equals Satan plus Milton plus New York City real estate tycoon. The character is named after John Milton, the author of Paradise Lost, which is a 17th century epic poem about Lucifer's fall.
Yeah.
Pacino's character also borrows from real life 80s and 90s real estate moguls with the shady deals, excessive wealth, and power over people's futures. This was Charlize Theron's breakout role, her first major film role. She was still largely unknown at the time. She did intense research for her breakdown scenes, spending time with psychiatrists and trauma counselors. Keanu learned Southern dialect for this role. He plays a Florida lawyer, and he worked with a dialect coach to soften his California accent into a light Southern drawl. Reeves also turned down bigger paychecks elsewhere to make this film happen. If you ask me, he needs to, whoever he hired should be ran out of town.
Sure, he definitely need a better
that accent was
better
garbage.
coach.
This is a thing about this is like a known thing about Keanu Reeves, is that he's not good with accents and stuff. Just don't.
Yeah, he should have just used his own. I mean, it's Florida. Florida is not known for Southern accents.
Right.
If he was a Mississippi or Alabama lawyer, then sure, give him an accent.
But they did the same thing with Charlize Theron too, and I wonder if hers was natural or not, because I believe I've heard her use it multiple times.
Sure. Well, in Monster, but Charlize Theron is from South Africa.
I don't think she did good either. I hate saying
They had the same.
She did it.
criticizing because I'm not a actor.
100%. Her accent wasn't very good, also, but I'm going to give her some slack being from South Africa.
Sure.
And her accent was way better than Keanu's.
And I thought they had a very similar sound. Really.
Yeah. It was garbage, but we looked past it because the movie itself was great. The legal and ethics. The filmmakers hired actual attorneys to consult and ensure the legal arguments sounded legit. Several world lawyers have admitted that the early courtroom scenes are surprisingly solid up to the point where Satan takes over, of course. The famous final scene almost got them sued. The film's final scene with the shifting statue, the living wall of nude bodies, sparked a lawsuit from famous artist Frederick Hart, who claimed they copied his sculpture. If you look at the sculpture that they're talking about, they 100% copied it. The studio
What it morphed into? Is that what you're getting at, or the statue itself?
So here's the thing:
on the wall.
In the movie that we see today, it starts out as a painting, and then in the final scene, it morphs into a sculpture.
Yeah, the whole big backdrop on the wall back there.
If you'd seen it in theaters, it would have been a sculpture the whole time. Because of the lawsuit, they changed it so it was a painting throughout most of the film, and then it morphed into a sculpture so that they could have the part where the subjects are weaving around and swimming.
Sure.
And that was actually filmed with actors swimming around in a tank with a blue screen. And then they, using CGI turned it into what it is today, which is the only really good CGI in the whole film, because there's scenes where there's a blue screen of the city behind them and it's fucking garbage. It looks horrible.
I didn't catch it. I liked the special effects makeup artist. I forget his name. I looked it up, but he did great with the faces of the demonic.
Sure. Of course, that was back when they would just give you a flash. It wasn't very long. It wasn't a long pause on the face. It was just a quick glimpse at it, enough to give you the hint of demonism, right?
I like that about it, though. I like just the flash of the demonic face.
It was really good.
It's like your old school horror movies never quite showed the monster,
Yeah. What else? Oh, they actually had to delay the video release a little bit while they settled the lawsuit, and they ended up, instead of going to court, settling so that they could actually have their DVD release, their home video release. There were actual real New York City landmarks in the filming. The film's lobby scenes were filmed in the lobby of the Continental Center on Wall Street. Some rooftop scenes were shot at actual luxury penthouses in Manhattan, and that really gave it that New York City vibe, even while it dripped with the supernatural weirdness. Including, there's the scene where they're at the billionaire's penthouse and there's all this gaudy gold crown molding and all that. That was actually Donald Trump's penthouse.
Wow.
Yeah.
During that time, I've watched a lot of 90s television lately.
Yeah.
Just rerunning some stuff. Donald Trump was mentioned quite often in a ton of shows. And look, I'm going to stop on that one, but I've just noticed that his name pops up all the time in media during the mid to late 90s.
Well, he's always been a smart businessman. Say what you will about his politics, but as far as business goes, he knows what he's doing. And he's always, rented out his buildings for stuff. He even rented out his building for Home Alone and did a small cameo in it. And yeah, before he got into politics, he was universally liked.
Sure.
To follow up on your fun facts, you mentioned Faust.
Yeah.
Do you know what Faust is in English? The tragedy.
It's a German word, isn't it?
Yes.
Ah, okay.
It's a German name.
Right. But Google it.
Not right now.
But it means tragedy.
I have another fun fact, though. Al Pacino was nominated. This was the MTV Awards. He was nominated for Best Movie Villain. But he lost to Mike Myers portraying Dr. Evil.
Wow.
Those movies were.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just read your article on that today, as a matter of fact.
That's funny.
Right.
Yes, it was good. It was very interesting. I had never heard of her before.
That's it.
There's a ton of foreshadowing in the movie, subtle hints like Milton's name, the baby in the painting, the phrase free will is repeated throughout. And then, of course, you have Pacino's epic free will is a bitch speech.
Free will, it's a bitch.
And then my last fun fact, Pacino improvised a lot of lines. Pacino delivered many of his most memorable monologues with heavy improvisation. The famous God is an absentee landlord rant was mostly Pacino going off script.
Really?
Yeah.
Fantastic.
And it's so good.
You can't write that stuff.
I will say that that's another one of those films that when you watch it in retrospect, right? We watch it now, 2025. And I remember at the time thinking, this is brilliant. This is on point for what it is. And this actor is amazing portraying, any kind of demonic force, whether it was Satan or anybody else. Point is, he did an awesome job. And that was during the time period where everyone wanted to either work with Pacino or watch another Pacino film. Okay, as I rewatched this, I was nowhere near as impressed with the character of John Milton as I once was. Yes, at that time period, he was considered very charismatic. Very. In 2025, it's very lewd.
Yeah.
Yeah, I found it more lewd than I did charismatic.
I think that the movie still holds up.
Oh, certainly.
You have to. We always, we talked about in our first one with Austin Powers if it still holds up, and in that movie the point is kind of that it doesn't hold up. Honestly, this movie holds up.
Sure. You know what I loved about it? The fact that it was almost, look, most people think that there's a demonic force out there that's putting horrible things in their life and causing mischief and everything else, when in truth, he just lets you do what you're already inclined to do. That's it.
Right. In that final scene when he was doing his monologue, Kevin Lomax says, "Oh, you made me do this." And he says, "I don't do that. I don't make anybody do anything." And I've been reading this. Our book of the week for this one is The Devil and Philosophy, which really breaks from my normal, usually I do like a business book or something. This is a philosophy book, but we're talking about the devil. And I wanted to really dive into that. And while we're on the topic, if you're not following Chris's Substack, you're wrong.
Thank you.
I
was going to let you read the one that's coming out. I think you'd be really impressed with it. When you write some of these articles and you've been studying something yourself forever, you just assume everybody knows what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. If you're not following Chris's Substack, you're making a mistake. Chris has been, first of all, we all know Chris from Father Nature's Botanicals. He's the plant daddy, but Chris has also been studying theology his entire life, and now he's writing about it. And his Substack is you're kind of using it to build out your eventual book that you're going to write, I'm assuming.
Sure.
And so it's kind of like watching somebody collect their thoughts and put together the rough draft of the book. And it's fascinating. And the first couple of articles have been about early Genesis and how, that first line from the Bible has often been translated as God said, when in reality it's Elohim said, and Elohim is plural.
That's right. It's a masculine plural at that.
Yeah. So the gods, the masculine gods said, let there be light.
Basically, yes. I mean, and that word is used, I want to say, like 6,800 times throughout the entire Old Testament, and it's used in multiple ways. And there is a singular, you know, term as well for Elohim. Elohim is the plural. The I am.
So they had the option to use the singular term,
Sure,
and it didn't.
right.
That's a choice.
And some theologists or some, scholars will say that it's much like saying deer or fish.
Yeah.
Okay. Or they'll say that they use a majestic plural, which is.
But this is backed up in the very first of the 10 Commandments, where it says, "You will worship no other gods before me," acknowledging that there are other gods.
Certainly. Well, throughout the whole Old Testament, it was one deity saying, don't worship those other deities, not the false deities. It was, hey, they were worshiping these other deities. It was the deity or the god of that land. And when you look at, okay, so for me, I was raised in a Christian household, and if it wasn't in the Bible, it wasn't true. And I started thinking, well, it's saying that there are other gods and that these other people are worshiping them. And it talks about the Canaanites quite often because they were neighbors, right?
Yeah.
They were neighbors. So just go look at the Canaanite scriptures. Just go look at their historical documents. What do they talk about? Well, they talk about the deities they were worshiping. And wouldn't you know, they mention the Israelite God. They sure do. And the stories don't conflict.
And the Israelite God is Yahweh.
Yahweh. Well, Yahweh is the name that he gave Moses. Now, at the same time, he turns and tells Moses, this is in, I want to say Exodus 2, something like that. I'm not going to lie on what verse it was, but the point is Moses is at the burning bush and he says, well, who should I tell him I'm talking to? Who should I tell him sent me? In other words, what's your name? Now, if this is the God of all creation and the most all-powerful being in the whole damn universe, you would think you'd know who he was. You got to trick him into telling. He says, well, I am what I am. And we've all heard the famous term, I am, right? Yeah. It's I am what I am, or I am what I will be. Now, scholars argue over the tense of that word. It's hang on. Eve, Ashura, Eve, something like that. Anyway, I don't speak Hebrew, so I'm not going to tell you that I do. But the point is, the tense of that word, whether it is I am or I will be or what it will be, the same thing. Point is, I think he was saying, well, I am what I am.
Yeah.
I am me.
Yeah.
And he says, you know what? And that's when he kind of stops. He says, you know what? Go tell the Elohim of those people that the Elohim of Jacob and Abraham has sent you. Okay, that in itself tells me that an Elohim is not the word for God. It was a title or name of a group of people or a race of beings who happen to be in command of certain territory. Yeah. Go tell the commander of those people that the commander of these people sent you. Doesn't that make more sense? Yeah. Anyhow, let's move on to the next thing.
So on that same thread, though, the devil, we always say the devil, like there's a devil. He has many names. Now, in this book, The Devil in Philosophy, which is written by a lot of authors, each chapter is from a different author, and then it's compiled by Robert Arp. But the first chapter is Nicholas Michaud, and he talks about the chapter is called "Can You Guess My Name?" And in this first part, he talks about Peter Bensfield, which was a German bishop in the put together his classification of the big bad guys according to the 7 deadly sins. So you have pride, greed, lust, envy, gluttony, wrath, and sloth. And he gave names to each of these demons who commanded each of these sins: pride, Lucifer; greed, Mammon; lust, Asmodeus; envy, Leviathan; gluttony, Beelzebub; wrath, Satan; and sloth, Belphegor. So, we attribute the devil to just being this one dark angel, when the Catholic Church for a long time essentially said that there's many demons of many names. And I think that just as we have gone from there's only one God, we've gone to there's only one devil. And I think it's just, at the end of the day, I think people are simple, and it's easier to go, it's just these two. It's black and white. There's good and there's bad. There's God and there's Satan. That's it. I'm not having this discussion. You know what I mean?
Well, I think a lot of that is Western theology. You've got to remember that what we have been taught our entire lives here in America, right? Reading the English versions of the biblical texts, we read Satan as a pronoun or as a name, right? And we think, oh, okay, that's the devil, that's Satan, that's his name. When in all actuality, we're reading a Hebrew word, Satan, that means the adversary. That's all it means. And there's multiple times throughout the whole Bible where it talks about the adversary of different situations, and different people are actually called the adversary or Satan. And there are some instances where even Jesus himself is called Satan, because in that instance, he was the adversary to the person that was, that was being spoken about. Right. The only time where it's actually used as a specific, the Satan, the enemy, the adversary, is where it says Satan, H-A Satan. And there's only a few instances of that. I want to say it's in either First Samuel's or Kings. It's coming up in an upcoming article. Hey, look, memorizing scripture was something I did when I was a child. Now it's like I've read it 1,001 times. I don't remember the scriptures, but I have references. Oh yes. Oh yes. Thank God for the internet.
What I love about your Substack articles is that you present everything as a question. You're not stating these things.
Sure.
Like,
well, I wasn't there, man.
Exactly.
Yeah, I wasn't there.
I get accused of being an atheist all the time, and that's not the case at all. I've said this over and over again. My big thing is that I don't claim to have any of the answers.
Sure.
And I don't trust anybody who says that they do, because there's a lot of nuance. There's a lot of contradictory information, even in the Bible, even in individual books. Genesis contradicts itself in many different lines.
It's got two different creation stories, tell two totally different stories in Genesis.
Yeah.
Sure.
And so for somebody to position themselves as an expert and be like, oh, no, I have all of the answers, I have a problem with that. In fact, that level of gatekeeping has historically been a problem. Martin Luther, not Martin Luther King, but the original Martin Luther, was the man who translated the Bible from Latin. At the time, it was in Latin, and only the priests could read it and translate it. And so if you wanted to know what the Bible said about a given topic, you had to go talk to a priest. They were gatekeepers. And so Martin Luther translated it into, I think he had to translate it into Greek and then into German. I don't know. He gave the Bible to the people, and that pissed the church off. And
Certainly.
If I remember correctly, they killed him because of it.
Yeah. Yeah, the original texts were actually written in 3 different languages over a 1,500-year period, right, from different points all over the entire known world at the time. But the Old Testament was written in Hebrew by the Hebrew Israelites, right? The New Testament was written in a combination of Aramaic, which was at the time already a dying language, but it was the language that Jesus himself spoke, and then the rest of it was in Greek. And the reason for that was because by the time the 2,000 years had passed, from the beginning of the writings till the New Testament, the coming of Jesus, Greek was kind of their national language at the time. They were in power. I mean, when you think about who actually crucified Christ, everybody says, oh, well, it was the Jewish people. No, the Jewish people didn't do it. It was the Romans. That's right. So, by the way, if you want to look any of this stuff up and say, I don't believe in the Bible, that's okay. Just go to the Roman historical documents to find this information. And that's what I do for a lot of this, because I feel like I'm more of a historian than a theologist, more of a historian than a Christian writer. As a matter of fact, after you've looked up the history of a lot of this stuff, you find that maybe it doesn't all jive with what you were taught and what you thought you believed. That's why I'm writing this stuff. The reason that I'm putting out these articles is after a lifetime of study. My daughter at 24 years old gave me a call and said, Dad, I've got some questions, and some of them are questions that I hate to even ask out loud.
That's the problem, because, I think a lot of people, they can't get too far into the Bible because they can't get past the so-and-so begot so-and-so begot so-and-so begot, because it gets redundant and it's hard to understand. But then if you truck through that and you really start to read it, you start to go, a lot of this doesn't add up to what I've been told. You know what I mean? And then you just have questions, and nobody wants, in my experience, spiritual leaders, they just take this, this is what they mean, and don't worry about the contradictory stuff.
Sure, they gloss over it.
There's all the time people tell me, well, all that stuff in the Old Testament is null and void when the New Testament was written. But at the end of the day, you can't have that New Testament without the Old Testament.
Sure.
The Old Testament lays the framework And without it, there is no New Testament. Revelations. Doesn't Revelations borrow heavily from the Old Testament?
They all kind of do. You have to think this. Most of these were written, or most of the New Testament books were written. Well, I take that back. I'm not going to say most of them, because most of them were written by Paul, which was a Gentile. He wasn't a Jew anyway. He never met Jesus. But they were based on the teachings that the Jewish people had been following, which was the Old Testament. It's still, when you look up a Hebrew Bible, you're looking at the Torah, and it's the Old Testament. They don't follow the New Testament. What do you think the Jews thought Jesus was? Remember, they don't believe that he was the Messiah.
Yeah, these guys.
He was a cult leader. That's what they thought.
Yeah, these guys wrote the New Testament, but they don't use that for their spiritual text. The Torah is still the spiritual text of the Hebrew people.
That's it. Well, that was the only time that there was supposedly anything said by God, right? Now, my argument in that is that the God of creation spoken about in Genesis 1 is not the same God as Yahweh that was speaking to Moses.
Yeah.
Which is where we get all of our Mosaic law from, right? It was supposed to have come from that guy. I don't believe that was the same being, but that's just, that's for another article.
Yeah.
That's for another article.
All right. We are half an hour into this and we haven't even started on the movie.
Did you guys notice the beautiful colors of bright red throughout the movie?
Yeah. Oh, they did such a great job with symbolism.
Yeah.
Critical moments too, whenever the devil's
very
work was
critical
being
moments.
done.
Yes.
Yeah, I was thinking, in what room did they just have red light bulbs? I thought this.
All right.
That was symbolic to the descent into hell.
Let's get into it. All right. So Kevin Lomax, a defense attorney in Gainesville, Florida, has never lost a case. He defends a school teacher, Mr. Geddes, against a charge of child molestation. During the trial, Kevin realizes that his client is guilty, and a reporter tells him that a guilty verdict is all but inevitable. However, through a harsh cross-examination, Kevin destroys the credibility of the victim and secures another not guilty verdict. So that's our first approach of the free will thing. By his own free will and his own vanity, he chose to go ahead and defend his client and knowing that it was the wrong thing to do spiritually, not necessarily spiritually, but morally.
Well, he was manipulated by the reporter who was actually John Milton.
Yeah, we don't know that until later, sure, but it's his first ethical compromise of the movie.
Certainly. You can tell he had a little trouble with it, but he did it.
Yeah, they did that well. They wrote it well in the movie, and he acted it out. He goes to the bathroom and he has a panic attack. He's like, I can't do this.
Sure,
But then the moment he gets challenged, right? This is critical, because the moment he gets challenged by the reporter is whenever he changes. You know what? Fuck you. I win. That's what I fucking do.
It's about winning.
And even evil smiles in the mirror. So the moment that he's challenged, his ambition outweighs his moral code.
100%.
So from a leadership and project management standpoint, leadership starts where temptation kicks in. How often do project managers defend the guilty client because winning looks better than being even morally right?
Sure.
How often have you seen situations where in lieu of doing the right thing, you roll with the punches because at the end of the day you have a job to do. I write about in my book, The Hard Knock School of Project Management, how we'd get these contracts occasionally and there'd be these red flags. And bring them up to management, the suits, and it'd be like, your job is to execute on the contract.
Sure.
The very first project that I talk about in chapter 1 of the book, we had this fire and brimstone creature who had power of attorney for this client, and the house at the end of the day probably should have been bulldozed. It was a piece of shit, but we had this contract. And this real estate agent who lived across the street, who nobody really seemed to have the old lady who was the actual homeowner, her best interests in mind. It was all about, trying to get the most amount of money for this house. And
you guys put a ton of work into that place and lost out, right?
Yeah, there were no winners at the end of the day.
Yeah, and I want to say that was in the first chapter. I remember reading that when the book first came out.
There's a lot of red flags, and they were ignored. And it's the same thing. It's the same thing.
Yeah, so that's a lack of empathy.
As he celebrates, Kevin is approached by a representative of the New York law firm Milton, Chadwick and Waters, who offers him a large sum of money to help the firm with the jury selection. After Kevin's jury delivers a non-guilty verdict, John Milton, played by Al Pacino, offers him a large salary and a swanky apartment if he joins the firm. Despite warnings from his evangelical Christian mother, Alice, about sinful big city life, Kevin accepts the job and moves with his wife, Marianne, Charlize Theron, to Manhattan. We have that weird scene where he gives him the business card and he's like, oh,
In the bar.
yeah. And it's a real thing to be like, oh, it's a nice business card. Every time, you get a business, and anybody who's in business is a fan of nice business cards. When you get a nice business card, you're like, I do like this business card. You know what I mean?
Sure, that nice quality paper, that raised letters. Oh, yeah.
But you have that weird line. He says, the black thing, you're black. Like, the card's not even black. What in the world is he talking about?
I was too hypnotized by the song in the background. Show Me Your Tattoo by Cadillac Moon is a great song.
It is.
I think and you being black, that being perfect, I think that was a Southern thing. I think that was supposed to point at where they were at. And
I guess.
Yeah. I mean, it didn't really hit home with us today, but I think at that time it probably did.
Yeah. So on the leadership and project management end of this, it's the typical recruiter sweet talking you into the perfect job. And there's some real world leadership versions of a deal that sounds too good to be true.
I think all this really shows how really good John Milton is as a project manager, because he's playing that long game we always talk about. I mean, he's putting pawns into place early on. I mean, this is a decades-long plan.
My mind goes to all of the MLMs, the pyramid schemes and multi-level marketing, where you get pitched this thing, this business deal, and it sounds too good to be true because it is.
Yeah. A lot of times it is.
No.
And it was there. It was in this case. It was just in a long-term.
And the red flags, you just talked about all these red flags. The red flags were there for him in that scene. I mean, he questioned it all. He was like, New York, come on. You know what I mean?
But you know what? I think they did New York to play on his ego. You think about it. I mean, although he was in Florida, and we don't think of Florida as being backwater or small town, but the place where he was at was portrayed as a small town.
Mm-hmm.
Look at the tiny little church they went to.
Yep.
His mother was a very plain woman. They have this very low Southern drawl in their accent. And I think it was supposed to signify that they were the small town people going to the big city. And what's more glamorous and glorious than a New York City? You know what I mean? I think 100%. That's why they did that.
And so about this time in the movie, Kevin meets John Milton for the first time. Up on the skyscraper on the outside, they got that infinity pool.
Loved it.
Real pool that they built on top of this skyscraper. He walks all the way to the edge. And there's that, it kind of clocks, looks at his feet, it shows this guy's fearless as fuck,
Not only that, but it kind of showed, I read somewhere that he checked out his shoes and noticed that his shoes were like old shoes. They're kind of from the 70s.
Yeah, they were plain ass shoes and they were elevator shoes.
Yeah, I guess symbolizing that this dude is like an old soul.
There's a great quote. He says, I kill him with kindness. That's my secret. And he asks, what's your secret? There's that whole thing about, I'd listen through a hole in the wall.
Yeah, that was bullshit.
Yeah.
Just made that up.
Yeah. I'm going like, no other lawyers realize there's a hole that you could listen to the juries. And then Kevin first defends a voodoo sorcerer who ritually sacrificed an animal. He compares the incident to kashrut law and claims that his client is protected under freedom of religion, winning the case. Kevin spends an increasing amount of time at work, leaving Marianne, his wife, feeling isolated. I thought that was a brilliant argument for, the way that he compared it to kosher.
Sure. Certainly.
Brilliant legal argument. And at the end of the day, I agree. If one's acceptable, so is the other.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
I was just so blown away that he sent Kevin to go make sure this dude does a fucking devil ritual to make sure homeboy stays silent. Blowing me. I mean, crazy movie.
Did you catch what he said? Did you catch what the black guy said? The voodoo guy?
Something about the tongue.
No, I mean, okay, when Kevin first walks down there into that basement, that dungeon-looking basement, to see him, and he says, and it was funny because they never referenced it again. I think you really had to be paying attention to it. But the guy looks at him and he says, "Oh, I thought I'd recognize you when you came," because he thought he was the devil. He thought he was, the demon. He says, "Yeah, I thought I would recognize you."
Oh wow, dude, that's a whole nother layer to the onion.
Sure. Well, that's who he'd been praying to.
The devil
That's who he'd
was
been
sending
talking
his son, and his son was mistaken for the devil.
to. Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
But backing up a little bit, whenever he's assigned this case, he goes, it's a health code violation. It should be a plea bargain. This is a test, isn't it? And Pamela goes, "Isn't everything a test?" Yes, everything is a test. You have that scene where there's the chicken tic-tac-toe. And that's my biggest complaint with this movie is that we didn't actually get to see the chicken play tic-tac-toe.
Yes, we definitely wanted to see that. We definitely wanted to see that.
But
Al Pacino didn't want any CGI.
They got chicken shit bingo right down the road, y'all.
But you did get to see Al Pacino speak Cantonese, which is, like, oh shit, this guy speaks Cantonese.
He spoke multiple languages in this movie,
Mhm.
which I think was
And his Spanish was really good.
sure.
From somebody who speaks a little Spanish, that was really good Spanish. I was picking up what he was putting down.
I'm gonna have to take your word for it.
Where are we at? In my notes, I might be jumping ahead, but in my notes, I just have like this series of quotes. There's the scene where they're at the party and John Milton and Mary Ann meet for the first time and he's convincing her to cut her hair.
Sure.
But he says the worst vice is advice. That is a great quote. That's something that I have had to learn myself. I've always had a habit of offering unsolicited advice, and people don't like it. People don't like unsolicited advice.
No, nobody wants to be told. Well, I'll take that back. Strong people do not want to be told what to do or how to do it.
Yeah. I mean, like I offered you some advice about your some of your rights.
Sure. I said thank you.
And I had to, say, hey, I'm not trying to knock it.
I understood where you were coming from.
Yeah.
You do the same thing I do. It was all right. I appreciated, you actually reading it enough to tell me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But some people would not appreciate that, I'm one of those people that does appreciate advice,
Sure.
And I don't understand people that don't like to get advice, but I get it. I think I get it. I get it now. I didn't always get it.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And then also in that scene, they go up to his office and they're like, where's the bedroom? He doesn't have a bedroom. Apparently the devil never sleeps.
Yeah, where does he fuck?
I'm right there on the altar.
Everywhere, baby.
Anywhere he wants.
Kevin next defends Alexander Colon, a billionaire accused of murdering his wife and child. The case demands more of Kevin's time, further separating him from Marianne. He begins having fantasies about his coworker, Christabella Andreoli, played by Connie Nielsen. This is also a breakout role for her. She's done awesome roles since then, recurring in Saw. Saw. She's the detective in like all of the Saw movies.
Didn't she do Species? That was a different.
And then while Mary Ann shows signs of mental illness when she claims seeing demons everywhere, Milton suggests that Kevin step down from the trial, but Kevin refuses.
Tried to give him an out. Yeah, he can't be a bad guy. He tried to give him an out.
Yeah. He straight up told him to do the right thing. The devil straight up told him to
Now,
do the right
hang on. Let's go down this rabbit hole. That's a part of his manipulation. Because here's the thing. The greatest manipulator, and you could argue that if the devil's real, he's probably the greatest manipulator. And the greatest manipulator will manipulate in such a way where he tells you the truth.
Certainly.
Everything he said in that scene where he's like, hey, she's sick. What are you doing? Well, it's not a debate. Go, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He was saying all those things, and all of them were true, right? They were a lie in that, when you take into context what he's doing, he knew that doing that was going to make ambitious fucking Kevin be like, no. Got to be on the case, man.
Well,
that's
that's
exactly
his
what he
project management at its best. He understands the strengths and weaknesses of, the people around him, and then knows how to act accordingly. Sure, if you want to get him to back off, you just tell him to back off. It's okay.
Yeah.
Just throw away the biggest thing you've ever done.
And we
No
talk a lot in the Hard Knock University about scope creep and how you have to rein that in. And scope creep doesn't just apply to the job; it applies to your personal life as well.
Explain to me scope creep. I've been reading that in multiple places lately. I don't think I have a grasp on what it is.
When you start out with a contract, right?
Okay.
And then you get a change order. And now the scope has changed.
Okay.
And then you get another one and another one and another one. And the scope keeps changing. And like we were supposed to be done with this project a month ago, and we've had 18 change orders, and we're way behind schedule. We're way over budget.
Sure.
You know, change orders can really, you know, and when not done right, they can really screw you. And nobody likes a change order. You know, and you end up discounting them a lot of times. You know, some people, a lot of rookie project managers will just not do a change order and be like, oh, we'll just throw that in. You know what I mean? And that kind of stuff will really jack up your margins and just really, really jack up a project. But it applies to your personal life as well. You know, when you start, when you don't have a good work-life balance, you know, and you're letting the job, you know, bleed over into your personal life, much like what was going on with Kevin and Mary, causes problems.
Sure. I think a lot of his was risk management and not understanding the risks involved, which would be a lot like a rookie project manager.
Talking about Kevin or John?
Kevin. No, Kevin. Kevin went in thinking a certain thing, you know, things were going to be a certain way. I mean, they even talked about it. Kevin, please don't leave me alone. Oh, I wouldn't leave you alone, Marianne.
Yeah.
And that's the first thing you did.
The first thing he does.
Coerced to go somewhere else. Now, you never heard him turn around, like never through the whole time. And you never turned around and said, you know what? I really need to get back to my wife. We all would have done that. Like, I know that. You would have said,
I don't know. Like the first time through watching the movie, I was like, well, which fucking problem can't be left alone on a fucking party? You know?
I don't know. Strange city. She doesn't know anybody. Man, that's going to be a problem when you get home.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I certainly get it after watching it a second time, but the first time through, I felt for Kevin. I was like, it's his boss, you know, he's got, this is important, you know, big case, you know what I mean? But no, at the end of the day, yeah, a lot of people, especially back then, you know, I think that divorce isn't as prevalent today as it was in the 90s because there was so many people that were burning out their home life, chasing career validation.
I think there's fewer people getting married now.
I think there's some of that too.
I think we're getting worked into the dirt, Mark.
Well,
are we overworked? Is America overworked?
Hell no, man. I don't know anybody that puts it. No.
It's a roller coaster. It's a roller coaster. You have your ups and downs. And I think that post the 90s, I think that the millennials kind of said, you know, hey, I've seen this with my parents. Sure. I'm going to rein this in. I'm going to try to have a good work-life balance. But then inflation really just kind of robbed us of what our parents had. You know, we start to go, fuck, I gotta get my ass to work. I wrote an article about this recently. Actually, it was my first episode of Obviously Wrong, my other podcast. I talked about work-life balance is a myth and how I never had work-life balance. And then I found it. I had this sweet spot for about 3 years where I had a great work-life balance. But then we got into this economy that we're in now, where everything's flipping. Things are not looking good across the entire nation, the entire world. These tariffs are jacking things up. The real estate market's jacked up. The government really did us dirty when they artificially jacked up the interest rates, and everybody got locked into these mortgages at 2% and 3%. And now people are married to these homes that they'll probably never sell because you'd be a fool to sell your home where you've got a mortgage at 2 or 3% and go buy one at 7%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so I specifically am in this part of my life where I'm hustling, man. I'm prepared to work multiple jobs. I'm prepared to throw myself at this in the hopes of monetizing it and creating another income stream. Writing. I'm writing and writing and writing. And a lot of what that writing is building chapters for the next book.
So where can the viewers go to find your work?
He won't plug himself.
leadershipknocks.substack.com. Please subscribe. It's free. I'm not monetizing the Substack yet. I noticed you have you can subscribe for a paid version of yours.
Yeah.
I'm not doing that yet.
Okay, you know what? And I don't have it set up to where they get anything extra. But when I talk about it, I just let them know if you want to support what I do monetarily, Go ahead.
What I'm going to do soon is the Buy Me a Coffee link.
Sure.
I'm going to add that Buy Me a Coffee link to my Substack.
Heck
So,
yeah.
you don't have to subscribe on the the financial tier, but if you want, buy me a coffee.
There you go.
You know
That's
what I mean?
nice. That's
Also,
nice.
buy his book, people. Book it.
Please buy it.
You don't have a
Oh,
copy of it?
the paperback copy is version is out. So if
That's the one I want right there.
we got the hardback, and it's beautiful, but let me tell you, the paperback is sexy, and it's half the price. So if the cost of tuition to the Hard Knock University is what has been keeping you from buying the book, get the paperback. It's half the cost.
And if you don't give a damn about project management, that's okay, because everything he talks about is applicable to everyday life.
Man, it sure feels good to see that ISBN number, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. This is great.
Edward Barzoon, the firm's managing attorney, is convinced that Kevin is competing for his job after finding his name in the company papers as a partner. Although Kevin denies any knowledge, Barzoon threatens to inform the United States Attorney's Office about the situation. Kevin tells Milton about Barzoon's threats, but Milton is unconcerned, sarcastically dismissing Barzoon as God's special little creature. At that moment, Barzoon is beaten to death by vagrants who take on demonic appearances. Marianne witnesses this, further eroding her sanity. It's kind of weird that like her window looks over the jogging path where Jeffrey Jones gets murdered. Jeffrey Jones, pedo.
In real life, sees?
Yeah, that
I can see
actor.
that.
You keep hitting me with these crazy movie facts.
Yeah, I can
that-
totally see that guy. Yeah.
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 Oh, he's got the pedo.
He's got the look.
Yeah.
That's why he wasn't in Beetlejuice. They instead of having him in it, they did like claymation version of him and bit his head off.
Sure.
Because they weren't gonna pay a pedo to come reprise his role.
Well, isn't that nice?
Good move. Yeah.
So you know what? I thought that was perfect in this movie
Mark
when it
says.
first started off. I mean, look, that very first scene in the courtroom could have been about anything. They could have made it. Oh, he was defending a murderer, a robber, anything. But they intentionally went for something that, as far as Americans are
Insidious.
concerned, yes, that is the most heinous act that an adult could engage in.
It's a great point, because you can make the argument that they should have made it a crime that's less severe, because you could say that anybody in his shoes would have had that moral dilemma. You know what I mean? If you're trying, exactly,
yes,
harden the paint, right? Why wouldn't they rather do a crime that is less severe, so that you get the better sense that this dude is a good dude. This dude has a great moral compass.
Sure.
He's
Well,
ambitious as all fucking get out, and that's what kills him. And he likes money, but you know what I mean?
And that blind ambition tends to make you deaf. And when you stop listening to your team, you stop listening to your spouse,
To your wife.
disaster's coming, man. So on that note, how do we train leaders to hear those early warning signs, see those early warning signs?
How do you train your leaders not to be?
Not to be the devil.
Yeah.
well, I think a
Or
lot of
succumb
that-
to the devil, as Kevin did.
Sure, I think a lot of that is just instilling their certain sets of values and codes in them on the things that they are and are not supposed to do in their position, right? And then once that foundation is laid, they're well aware when they're breaking that code. They're well aware when they're, bending the paradigm of what's right and what's wrong internally.
I think some lessons have to be learned the hard way.
School of Hard Knocks, man.
And if you don't want to learn it the hard way, learn from me. Because I've learned some of these lessons the hard way.
Interesting, because Kevin Lomax hadn't taken the job. And you could argue that his life wouldn't have changed all that much. He still would have been a successful lawyer. He still has the babe. I mean, she's even more babe before the whole.
Yeah, let's talk about
before.
that. So we have the sex scene. He's having sex with his wife, Charlize Theron, and it keeps cutting back and forth. It's her, it's Christabella, then it's her, and then it's
Yeah, it's the
Christabella.
lesser babe.
And
Yeah,
it's almost
agree.
like he's more turned on when it's Christabella.
Of course he was.
And then she catches on and she stops him like, "Where are you?" "I'm right here." "No, you're not." And so also, the camera goes right to the scar on his stomach. And I thought it was going to be like some foreshadowing or something, but it's not explained anywhere.
It's probably in the book.
I wonder. Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna have to read.
I'm going to have to read I bought the book.
Did you? There it is.
Yeah, right here.
I bet
That's
it's
the
in
book. I haven't read it yet. What I've what I've read about the book is that the movie is actually better than the book.
Yes, I've
Okay.
heard that too. This is one of those rare cases where the movie's better. It's because of Al Pacino. Did y'all notice during that scene, in the background, first of all, a lot of color pops of red, but in the background while they were walking and talking, there's this guy holding this box up that says Halo something. Oh, scheiße. I should have wrote this down. But yeah, they put in this little, I don't know, Easter egg, whatever you want to call it. That was, I guess it was like symbolic of, God's presence is still there.
Sure.
I missed all of that.
Well,
Yeah,
I will
good.
say
It's very subtle.
I
Very
will
quick.
say that during that time period, it was very commonplace in the cities to have somebody with a sandwich sign that says "Jesus saved." John 3:16. The end is coming, or the end is near. That was a big thing all the time.
Oh yeah, the fire and brimstone preachers.
Sure.
Yeah, they still exist.
Oh yeah,
Well, Jesus was one of them.
Was he?
Yeah.
maybe,
Well, that's
maybe, folks.
biblically speaking, in the biblical text, Jesus was considered an apocalyptic, speaker. Everything he talked about was how the end is coming, God's kingdom's about to reign, all this kind of stuff. He believed, he straight said, it will be within your generation. Yeah, he was wrong.
Aren't they all always wrong? That's always the problem. The baby scene. So she has this dream, and there's this baby in the room. And she's like, "Oh, you're so cute. What are you playing with?" And it's her ovaries, which
it.
it looked like intestines. It I didn't realize. I don't think that's how much mass is in ovaries. That was a lot. The kid had a lot.
That must have been
There's a big pile.
the whole uterus.
Some ladies have big ass ovaries, man.
Yeah, but she's telling Kevin about her dream, and he's like, "It's just a dream. There's no blood. Your pajamas are fine." And she's like, it can't be a dream if it's true. I went to the doctor and they cut out my ovaries, but they didn't cut out her ovaries. They said, you have ovarian cancer or whatever. I don't know. She probably should have got a second opinion. Surely they had good health insurance at the. Yeah.
Paid to do, of course, working that plan.
Yeah. But then I think it's after that he's on the street walking with John, and they're talking about, he's saying, "Man, you got to take care of your family." He tells him to do the right thing, and like straight up tells him, like he didn't.
But all the while knowing that he's not gonna go take care of it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
He's got that ambition is gonna override
Sure.
the moral code. He's seen him do it.
And in the first watch through, this is where Kevin lost me when he says, my biggest fear is that I drop the case and she gets better and I hate her for it.
Sure.
Like, you fucking prick. Fuck you, dude. What a shitty way.
But that's real. That is real. That's reality. This is the largest thing in his entire life, and he's gonna screw it up over the mental state of some shit.
Yeah, why fuck him?
I mean, I would take it as a badge of honor if I stepped away from a case or a big job, big project. I mean, we're not talking about leaving the firm. We're talking about walking away from one project so that I can take care of my family. And if she got better, then that's good on me. You know what I mean? I did the right thing and she got better. I can be proud of myself for that. You know what I mean?
Right.
I don't know. I think he would always look at her like a weakness. He would always see her as being a weak
And that's
individual.
exactly what John Milton wanted. He wanted him to see
Well-
her as the only way that John Milton's plan works is if Kevin stays tethered to the firm
Well, here's the thing.
and isolates himself.
From
Sure.
day one, he's got goo eyes for Christabella,
Oh yeah.
Who would?
And so at this point,
It's the red dress. It's not her.
at this point, he's saying, I've got this other option. So if this goes south, it's not that big a deal. Christabella's right there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's
So-
temptation. That everybody goes through that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe not with a
I don't
lady.
think anybody wants me anymore, man. Yeah, that was a long time
Right,
ago.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, this day and age, this is
Samesies.
not.
But temptation doesn't just tie itself to lust.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying?
Moving on. While preparing Colin's mistress, Melissa, to testify about Colin's alibi, Kevin realizes she is lying and tells Milton he believes Colin is guilty. Milton offers to To back Kevin regardless, Kevin decides to proceed with her testimony and wins an acquittal. After the trial, Kevin finds Marianne in a nearby church, naked and covered with cuts. She tells her husband that Milton sexually assaulted and mutilated her, but Kevin saw Milton in court with him at the time of the alleged attack. He believes that Marianne injured herself and has her committed. So the devil can be in two places at once.
Yeah, he's fucking magic, bro.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. You know, when he's like, he couldn't have done that. He was with me, you know, in court.
There you go.
I get it. And I guess, I don't know. I know that today you're not going to get anybody put in a mental institution today, that we just don't have mental institutions anymore. You know what I mean?
Is that not a thing anymore?
No, we've shut them all down because like, oh, you're going to raise my taxes? I think so. They used to be very common. And the problem is that they were lobotomizing people. Like, oh, we can't be doing that. Our tax dollars were paying for this. And we're like, oh, I'm not going to. Okay. So Always Sunny in Philadelphia has a great episode about this exact topic where they're like, oh, raise my taxes for mental institutions? No way. But then they're like, we gotta build the sports complex for the Eagles to practice in. And they're like, well, yeah, they gotta have a place to practice.
Holding up a mirror.
Well, see,
Yeah,
look,
But they're like, but we gotta take care of our mentally ill. Well, yeah, we gotta take care of our mentally ill. Then we gotta use our tax dollars. No, we don't.
wait a minute here. Now I can totally understand this. Okay, now you think about this. We know damn good and well that someone that's not good at a sport can go practice and become fantastic. I had never seen a crazy person go into anywhere and come out not crazy. I ain't never seen them just become not crazy anymore. You know, they're just crazy with more medication.
Okay, that's fair, but isn't it better for them to be crazy in a controlled environment instead of on the streets?
Oh yeah, I'm a strong believer in the nut house.
I mean, you can go to
Definitely
downtown San
didn't
Antonio.
sound like it just a second ago.
Oh, no, I didn't say the tax dollars needed to pay for it, but they definitely need to be locked up.
Oh, so you don't think the tax dollars should pay for it?
Well, somebody needs to. I just don't know if it needs to be me.
You don't pay taxes.
You're right about that. Not in about 20 years.
I
People.
would rather my tax dollars
No.
pay for mental health care than these giant sports stadiums.
Agreed.
And people seem to be all for the sports stadiums
Yeah.
and not for
They create jobs. jobs.
Oh, I love it. That was great. That was so freaking perfect. Some say the best job. I love it. This guy.
where are we at? So yeah, Kevin dismisses her. He's focused on the big murder trial, which he wins, puts her
That's what he does. He
in an
wins.
institution. That's what he does. Kevin is approached by U.S. Attorney Weaver with knowledge of the law firm's illegal activities. Although Kevin tries walking away, he stops when Weaver tells him that Geddes was found with a dead girl in his car trunk. Following Kevin, Weaver walks into the street and is run over by a car. In that scene, that dude deserved to get run over by a car. He didn't look both ways at all. He just walked right out in the middle of the fucking street.
Very true.
Yeah. Okay. So, was that dude like a guardian angel? What's going on here?
No, he was a federal prosecutor
But
there
he- but-
investigating.
But he was about. I mean, you could argue that dude was like about to go talk some sense because Kevin still had some moral code left in him.
Yeah, he was trying to.
Maybe. Yeah.
You know, but then the devil.
But he got called back to heaven real quick.
The movie made it. The movie made it clear that him getting hit by that car was the work of John Milton
Oh, sure.
through his fucking satanic magic.
Sure. Well, you got to understand who rules this world.
Well, this world, yeah,
Ooh, that's
yeah,
where
yeah.
that's
That's
where
the
they
lure, isn't
live.
it?
That's it. That's it. You know, that's another thing too. A whole lot of people think about the guy in the red tights with the horns and the long tail living down below in this fiery
Right.
pit.
Like the
And that's
guy
not
with
at
the
all.
white beard in the clouds.
Sure, sure. And you know, that's not at all the actual scriptural narrative. The narrative says that he was cast down to earth to rule on earth. Oh yeah. So which means that human beings who are naturally born into this world are born into a world that is controlled by a demonic force.
We're born of sin, right?
Well, that's what they say. I don't know. That's one
Right.
that I have trouble with. You know, here's another one I have trouble
Wait,
with.
so doesn't you're born of sin just mean that you're imperfect? You're capable of evil? You think you're perfect?
Well, I think that it depends on if you want to. Here's the thing: is it a sin against who and why? That's my whole thing. I know that as a father, I could never look at any of my brand newborn children who have never done anything in life and say that they are sinners and that they are bad or that they have an ounce of evil in them.
Or that
at
any
that
of them
point.
deserve to
Okay.
go to hell.
Or that any of them deserve
So
to
you're
go
talking-
to hell.
You're speaking my language.
You're talking about original sin, and I'm on Wikipedia. And Christian theology refers to the condition of sinfulness that all humans share, which is inherited from Adam and Eve due to the fall, involving the loss of original righteousness and the distortion of the image of God. The biblical basis for the belief is generally found in Genesis 3 and in texts such as Psalms 51:5. I was brought forth in iniquity, and in sin did my mother conceive me. And in Romans, therefore, just as sin entered the world through one man, and death through sin, and in this way death came to all people because all sinned. It says the specific doctrine of original sin was developed in the 2nd century struggle against Gnosticism, and was shaped significantly by Augustine of Hippo, who was the first author to use the phrase original sin.
2nd century is what? Is that the Dark Ages? Is that Middle Ages?
Just before that.
The,
Yeah, quite a bit before.
The reason
Yeah.
I ask that is because I have a problem with every description of heaven, hell, the Bible, spirituality, all of it from those medieval times. Because all the Dante's Inferno shit from those times.
I think the Dark Ages were like the 1500s.
Right.
And the
Yeah.
2nd century was the 100s.
Right.
Because the 1st century was
Yeah.
0 to 100.
Okay.
2nd century was 101 to 200.
Right. So you're looking at over 100 years after Christ.
Right.
Sure. Yeah, that's some interesting time. Now, funny that you mentioned that because the word hell didn't exist biblically until
Okay. So it's my ridiculous and feeble understanding, not feeble, but my retarded understanding of hell from what the Bible says. It's not like this place, right? This fiery place, right?
Right.
It's just a
Right.
separation from God.
well, it's funny the way that it's actually used. Okay, if you look at it in the Old Testament, there was no hell. Hell didn't exist. No one ever went to hell in the Old Testament. Okay, which is what the Jewish people worshiped and believed. Right? They that's their religious text. Okay, the words were Sheol, which just meant the grave. That's it. That's where you go when you die. You go to the grave. That's it. The eternal resting spot, basically. Then there was another one, Gehenna, I believe, which was, good Lord, I want to say that was a place where people were buried. And then later you have Hades, right, and hell. Those didn't come until the Greeks and the Romans were in power, and a lot of that was borrowed from their own culture.
Yeah,
or
and
culture.
the Greeks, man, they have a problem with everything. First of all their gods and their way of life is beautiful and all that, right? But the way that it's just all the different gods and throwing lightning and
Funny that
and Dante's in for 7 levels of the hell. And I have a problem. Yeah, sorry.
It's also a fictional
with
work.
the fantasticalism of it all.
Sure,
You know what I
sure.
mean?
Well, and that was that society, at the time. But what I will say is I don't think that any culture believed in monotheism other than modern day Christianity in history. Like every culture believed in either polytheism or henotheism, which is the belief of either multiple gods or the acknowledgement of multiple gods and worshiping one. Right?
Mhm.
I mean, look, even the Native Americans.
Even the Native Americans.
Yeah. Native Americans did, the Romans did, the Greeks did, the Egyptians did, all of it. Even the Hebrews believed in multiple gods. Okay, those were the Elohim. They just worship. He says, "Don't have any before me."
I didn't want to say this, and you can edit it out if you want to, but you talked about the Elohim thing, and I read the article. I loved it, by the way.
Thank you.
But I'm getting into this Wes Huff guy, and he talks about he explains the Elohim thing in a way that is, first of all, it's easy to understand.
Sure. Well,
I need
in
that.
his direction, it's just their word for God. Sure.
Oh well, no,
it's not.
It's complicated.
Yeah.
And I don't remember and can't. It's a huge problem.
So from Wikipedia, Elohim is a Hebrew word meaning gods, plural, or godhood. Although the word is plural in form, in the Hebrew Bible, it most often takes singular verbal or pronominal agreement and refers to a single deity, particularly but not always the God of Judaism. In other verses, it takes plural agreement and refers to gods in the plural. So Wikipedia is like, there's some
discrepancy.
Yeah.
Sure. Well, and that's, you got to think it's a Hebrew word. Okay, so it's going to depict the deity that they were speaking of for sure. Throughout all of the years of the research that I've done, that's what leads me to believe that it wasn't necessarily God or gods, but they were actually talking about a different group of people. And because you have one Elohim, which was Yahweh, speaking about other Elohim. Check
And
out on
so-
Wikipedia the Divine Council.
I'm fascinated by the idea that this is all a simulation. And people
Sure.
hate that because it means it means that you have to really distort what the Bible says. But do we really?
No,
Because
Not necessarily. No.
because
No.
doesn't that just make the Elohim computer programmers? You know
not
what I mean?
necessarily. See, I don't even
Yeah,
think
except
they're
this,
that.
this isn't a computer, but it's
What
a
did you
great
tell me to look
analogy.
up? What did you say to look up?
Divine Council. Yeah, the Divine Council. This is what I've actually got an article coming out, on this topic, speaking about the different hierarchy of the Elohim. Yeah, there's El, which, by the way, the Canaanite god, the head god is El, right? In Judaic history, we've got El Elyon as the Most High,
I
right?
thought that was
The concept of a divine or council is attested in the archaic Sumerian, Akkadian, Old Babylonian, ancient Egyptian, Babylonian, Canaanite, Israelite, Celtic, ancient Greek, and ancient Roman and Nordic pantheons. Ancient Egyptian literature reveals the existence of a synod of gods. Some of our most complete descriptions of the activities of the divine assembly are found in the literature of Mesopotamia. Their assembly of the gods, headed by the high god Anu, would meet to address various concerns. The term used in Sumerian to describe this concept was Ukin, and in later Akkadian and Aramaic was Puhuru. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, all of the ancient religions had this divine council,
Sure.
and there were multiple gods. And monotheism on the grand timeline is a very recent, young concept.
Yeah, even in Judaism, according to its early, and in Christianity. Well, by the time there were Christians, it was a monotheistic religion.
Wasn't that the whole reason? Isn't that what they say?
But
the whole reason.
I would argue the Christian religion, as long as you have the 10 Commandments, acknowledges the existence of other gods. The monotheism part of it is not denying the existence of multiple gods. It's saying there is only one God. It's saying that you should only worship one God, that we only recognize one God as our God.
Sure, and that's actually called henotheism.
Hang on, I have an argument.
It's called
for that.
what?
Henotheism.
I have an argument for that, and it may be dumb.
I mean, the very first commandment.
Sure.
You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
so like, you're
Not the eighth,
you're a
not the
dad,
ninth.
right? You're a dad, and there are a bunch of other dads out there, right? But you wouldn't tell your daughter to see all those other dads as her dad too. You're her dad.
Sure.
Okay.
And
Is that a bad
I'm
argument?
picking up what you're
it's a
putting
good
down.
analogy. The analogy I use is in authorship or even in a programmer's sense. But like as an author, you're an author. You created your story. You created the book, the characters, everybody that's in there, the timeline from beginning to end. It doesn't mean you're the only human out there, but you are the God of creation of that world. And no one in your created world should ever worship him or me. You are the creator. So that's kind of how I look at that. Now at the same time, that is the reason that I cannot believe that the Elohim were the creators of this universe. Now, I am leaning towards the idea that they may have been the beings that genetically manipulated the hominids that were here and skipped that missing link. That's where we went from Homo erectus to what we are today, Homo sapien. Still doing it to this day. We've never stopped. It's
Small
not
scale, not a
No,
scale that
no.
would be helpful.
No, you are wrong. Do
Okay.
you not realize that is one of the minerals that is in every electronic device that we use?
Right.
Yes, we now know that it does contribute to our atmosphere.
Right.
Yes, and we didn't even know this hundreds of years ago, thousands of years ago. So for these texts to be written thousands of years ago, stating the fact that we were supposed to mine gold because they needed it for their atmosphere.
It's so ridiculous
Yeah.
to me, and here's why.
Yeah, you lose me there.
With the gold, the mining for gold is such a tiny aspect of the human experience.
Sure.
If that's our whole fucking MO for them, why is it such a tiny aspect of our? It's so ridiculous.
Yeah, that I understand what you're saying. That makes sense to me too.
Going back to the point of the movie,
Yes.
and the idea of free will, the meaning of life to me feels like to do the right thing, regardless. And this is my biggest problem with not necessarily the Christian religion, but look, I love me some Jesus. It's his followers that I have a problem with, because most of them have a mouthful of scripture and a heart full of hate. The idea, the only reason that I'm a good person and that I do good things is because I'll be punished by God if I don't.
Fear mongering
is fucking horseshit.
Yeah.
And if anything, doesn't that make God the bad guy? You know what I mean? If free will, if the whole point of this movie, the whole point of the devil is that free will is what commands us all, and we're all free to make our own decisions, then is not the meaning of life to do the right thing regardless of the outcome or personal gain?
I can see that.
I think that free will comes because, and this is actually my for real belief, regardless of what Christianity says. I've never claimed to be a Christian, but the free will thing is God's love. If you didn't have free will from your creator, then how could you say he loves you? You know what I mean? Like your daughter, right? Your child. You don't want to dictate her entire life, because that wouldn't be a good way to love her.
I know a lot of Christians that do.
Well, yeah, that's the problem, is like every organization, if you will get infiltrated by evil, if you will.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And especially, but if Christianity is the true way or whatever, then it's going to be attacked. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
They say like the devil comes at you the hardest whenever you're trying to turn to God, right?
That's it.
And I kind of a little bit experienced some of that in my interpretation of what happened to me. You know what I mean? So, the ways are mysterious.
Now, on to what you were saying there, I've got to tell you, while you're in the research mode, look up the demiurge.
Okay, what is it?
Urge. Yeah, demiurge.
DMI.
Yeah, that's an interesting concept, man. Very interesting concept.
The demiurge is an artisan-like figure responsible for fashioning and maintaining the physical universe. Various sects of Gnostics adopted the term demiurge. Although a fashioner, the demiurge is not necessarily the same as the creator figure in the monotheistic sense, because the demiurge itself and the material from which the demiurge fashions the universe are both considered consequences of something else. Depending on the system, they may be considered either uncreated and eternal, or the product of some other entity. Some of these systems are monotheistic, while others are henotheistic or polytheistic.
Okay, now let's shut that down. Yeah, because that wasn't really explained.
It sounds to me like the ether where the creators exist. Yep. So like you have the realm that we are in, but we're in a realm that's been created for us to exist in.
Sure.
But then you have, Elohim, and they exist in the demiurge.
Okay. Well, kind of, sort of. The way that's talking about it does definitely talk about two dimensions of reality, this inner dimension and an outer dimension. And the demiurge is a concept that the creator of all of this may not have been benevolent, but malevolent. Like, this was not created to be a good place. That's the reason we have death and theft and all of the things that we have, child, whatever it is, I mean, why would there be such turmoil in this wonderful place?
Because when you have one thing, you have to have the equal and opposite other.
In order to have balance.
Correct?
Yeah, in order to have balance.
If there's evil, there's got to be good. If there's good, there's got to be evil.
No, I get that too, but the concept of the demiurge is that it may not have been a benevolent being, but it could have been a malevolent.
Yeah, it reminds me of the theory that the Illuminati is actually a good organization working for the betterment of humanity.
You haven't read my article on the Game of Risk yet, have you? I'm gonna hate it.
I've some qualms with that article. I have some qualms with that.
I knew some people would.
I gotta start.
I don't want to get in that route.
Well, we'll do it another time.
Back to free will. I don't want to get in that route.
No, we'll do it another time.
Back to free will. We're talking so much about free will that I have to bring up hard determinism, the philosophical view that there is no free will, the idea that all human actions are casually determined and not the result of free choice. This perspective suggests that if we could know the complete state of the universe and the laws of nature, we could predict all future events, including human decisions. So determinism is the idea that every event, including human action, is caused by prior events and the laws of nature. This implies that there is only one possible course of events, and humans do not have the ability to choose freely among multiple options. The idea has some legs. And if you're going to take a hard stance on the Bible and say God has determined everything, he's laid it all out, he has a plan, and everything's going to play out the way that it plays out, then free will is not a thing. There's also some scientific research that says just by the fact that the speed of light is a hard rule, and that it's like I get burned, right? There's a time delay between the exact instant where I actually experience the burn to where the pain receptors tell my brain that I've been burned, and I actually pull my hand back. That set all of that in motion, and I had no control over it. And there's better ways of explaining it, but that's, in a nutshell, the concept.
Like, do you actually have free will? And that's the concept of predestination.
Well, I feel like I know that a lot of people tend to shirk the responsibility of their own decisions and say the devil made me do it.
Certainly.
You know what I'm saying? Like when they do something bad, they're absolved of the responsibility because the devil made me do it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. It wasn't their
Which is a
own
cop out at the end of the day.
Sure.
It goes completely against my whole hard knock, own your mistakes approach to life. But it's a real thing. The typically, Christians tend to
use it as a scapegoat.
Yeah, it's a scapegoat.
I think it's a humanistic thing.
Yes, yeah, because there's definitely a lot of other
the movie really explains how there's like humanistic parts of society that are devilish. Humanist, like, I'm not saying this correctly. There's human aspects that are just immoral and wrong and devilish, right? Sure. But then also there's human aspects that are good and right. Goes back to having a conscience, knowing in your heart of hearts or mind or whatever you want to call it, what's right and wrong.
Sure.
The movie plays on that all the time.
Yeah, let's get back into the movie. I knew we were going to have some rabbit holes on this one.
It's easy to get derailed.
I love the free will rabbit hole.
So Marianne attacks Pam with the mirror and locks herself in the room. As Kevin tries to break down the door, Marianne takes a piece of broken glass from the mirror and cuts her throat, but then killing herself. Before he can mourn, Alice reveals that Milton is Kevin's father. Kevin leaves the hospital to confront Milton, who gleefully admits to sexually assaulting Marianne. Kevin fires a pistol into Milton's chest, but the bullets have no effect. Kevin realizes that Milton is not only his father, but also Satan himself. Kevin blames Milton for everything that happened, but Milton explains that he merely set the stage, and that Kevin could have left at any time. Kevin realizes that he always wanted to win no matter the cost, and left Marianne behind. Milton explains that he wants Kevin and Christabella, who is Kevin's half-sister, to conceive a child, the Antichrist. He offers Kevin anything that he wants. However, rejecting his satanic heritage, Kevin cites free will and shoots himself in the head, ruining Milton's plan.
Right. So free will is what ruined the devil's plan. After championing free will through the whole movie.
Mm-hmm. We should have just kept it to himself, man. He would have done that. He would have got in there and got it. They would have had the Antichrist if Milton had kept this trap shut with the look. That's the way it always works in all these stories, right? The bad guy talks a little too much at the end, gives away the gives away the plan, and it foils everything.
Oh yeah,
it's a sign of bad leadership. Don't be arrogant. Don't be overconfident. Have a pivot plan.
I didn't expect the ending. I really didn't expect that to be what he did. And then the next scene, man,
set the timeline.
Yes. Okay, funny that happened.
Before we get into that, I want to. YouTube won't let me play this, so I want to read it. Al Pacino's free will speech. So I'm just going to read it. Who are you carrying all these bricks for anyway? God, is that it? God? Well, I tell you, let me give you a little inside information about God. God likes to watch. He's a prankster. Think about it. He gives man instincts. He gives you this extraordinary gift. And then what does he do? I swear, for his own amusement, his own private cosmic gag reel, he sets the rules in opposition. It's the goof of all time. Look, but don't touch. Touch, but don't taste. Taste, but don't swallow. And while you're jumping from one foot to the next, what is he doing? He's laughing his sick fucking ass off. He's a tight ass. He's a sadist. He's an absentee landlord. Worship that? Never. Then Kevin Lomax. Better reign in hell than to serve in heaven. Is that it? John Milton. Why not? I'm here on the ground with my nose in it since the whole thing began. I've nurtured every sensation man has been inspired to have. I cared about what he wanted, and I never judged him. Why? Because I never rejected him in spite of all of his imperfections. I'm a fan of man. I'm a humanist, maybe the last humanist. Who in their right mind, Kevin, could possibly deny the 20th century was entirely mine? All of it, Kevin. All of it. Mine. I'm peaking, Kevin. It's my time now. It's our time. Man, that's a good monologue. Yeah, and a lot of it was ad-lib. That whole absentee landlord thing, that was just Al Pacino just going off.
Only Al Pacino.
I wonder how long he actually sat back in his trailer thinking about that before he did that scene. Because he read that script over and over again. He's a dedicated actor.
But I mean, I've felt that. Like
sure.
I felt betrayed by God. Like I'm just, like my life means nothing. God doesn't care about me. He's never answered a single one of my prayers. I felt that whole absentee landlord, that sick sadist. He likes to watch. He's a prankster. I get it. You know what I mean?
Sure. I think we've all felt like that at times.
But that's it goes back to that free will or determinism or whatever the fuck it's called.
Where he loses me.
He's talking about he's talking about free will is what he's talking about.
Where he loses me is where he starts saying that I, the devil, am a champion of man.
Well, okay, now let's look at that. Let's look at Genesis, right? We're looking at the serpent in the Garden of Eden, talking to Adam and Eve. And what does he tell Eve? Surely you will not die. You'll just have the knowledge that he has. And he doesn't want you to have that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what happened when she ate the apple? Or the fruit? What happened when they ate of the fruit? They gained the knowledge. They did not die.
Yeah.
So who was lying here? Right now, let's go to the Mesopotamian.
So the story implies that God wanted his children to be ignorant and that they desired to, have this forbidden knowledge, and that the devil in the form of the serpent told them how to get that knowledge. They got the knowledge. Eve got the knowledge, told Adam how to get the knowledge. So he got it too. And God said, that's exactly what I told you not to do.
Isn't it just about choice, though? It's just about choice. Like you can choose.
We're back to free will. Yeah.
Yeah, you can choose. And
the serpent
forget the apple.
The serpent didn't force the fruit down their throats. He just said, "See that apple right there?
Mm-hmm.
That'll blow your mind."
Yeah. Forget the knowledge. It's to me, it's either a choice between dark and light.
I think that's what it was supposed to do, was let you know that there was always a choice.
Yeah.
Right. And all it was a parental thing. He said, "Don't do this," but you still have the choice to do it, the freedom to do that if you so choose.
Yeah.
Right. I think that's the moral of that story.
Now, I'm fascinated with the idea that the apple is a metaphor for hallucinogenic mushrooms that, when taken, will oftentimes humble you, so to speak. You know what I mean? I'm not afraid to say it. I've done mushrooms, and they've always kind of made me take the piss out of myself. Like I take myself less serious after, like it kind of opens up your mind and makes you go, I am just an ant on a rock floating through space. You know what I mean? It's a humbling experience, in my opinion. And so I wonder if maybe that's the analogy, if that's what they're talking about.
I hope not, because that implies that it would be wrong to do that, right? And I don't feel like there's anything bad, evil about being humbling yourself or having any sort of self-realization that you get from
I don't know. I was listening to some podcast at some point. This guy was talking about everything in nature is essentially a transistor. It takes a signal and it processes that signal and creates an output. And that's exactly what our brains are. And that maybe, possibly, consciousness is a signal being beamed down from on high. And our mind processes that and we have consciousness. And so maybe, whenever you do these hallucinogenic mushrooms, your brain is tuned in a little more to that signal. You're tweaking the knob so that you're turning the antenna a little bit. Remember rabbit ears?
That's it.
To catch that frequency
and getting that frequency a little bit better. Maybe, I don't know. It's an interesting concept.
I happen to believe that consciousness is not individual to each person.
No, not at all.
We're sharing one consciousness.
Certainly, and that goes all the way down into the human soul, right? If you look back at the earliest writings about the soul, even in the Hebraic literature, they believed in the divine spark, right? That one spark of life that's within all living things, that is the soul, is one ray of or spark of light from the divine source. We're all part of the same divine source. This is just one tiny fraction of it that once we depart this world, recombines with the divine source.
I wonder if you can Google something for me since we're on this particular topic. I heard of a study. I don't know if it's real. I heard of a study where this guy weighed like rats or something at the time of their death, and it was like fractional weights. And at the time of death, their weight actually went down teeny tiny microscopic amounts.
Even in human beings, that's been proven. Yes.
Really?
Yes.
Yes. I think that
maybe it was them shitting themselves.
They've also taken into account the amount and the weight of the air in the lungs.
So they did take that into account. You'd have to, you know what I mean?
I think that the fact that we're talking about such a small fraction, I don't think that it does take into account the weight of the air.
Check it out. Let's find out.
Yeah.
Let's find out. It's got to be in there somewhere. I know I've been hearing about it for at least 15 years, at least. That's definitely. I don't know when it was done, but I know I've read about it, heard about it.
They did the Germans to do something.
Well, I mean, that's the reason that we have heart and organ transplants, because of the Germans. I mean, they may have, committed some heinous acts, but without that, we wouldn't have.
Oh, they're great engineers. Fantastic engineers.
They did things that other people wouldn't have done.
Right.
That's the whole thing.
They do things that make people go, what the fuck?
There you are. There you are. Look at us now, though. We're experimenting. Well, not experimenting. We're doing full-on stem cell science,
You know where stem cells are super prevalent? In your fucking urine.
Interesting. I wonder if they're...
So, debunked. The original study claimed 21 grams by a guy named Duncan McDougall in 1907, but it's been widely debunked as inaccurate and biased. While there might be minor weight fluctuations due to air loss from the lungs or body fluids, it's not a consistent or significant 21-gram loss.
The Discovery Channel lies to us.
So Kevin wakes up during the recess of the Getty's trial. After embracing Marianne, Kevin announces that he can no longer represent his client despite the threat of being disbarred. The reporter follows Kevin and Marianne, pleading for an interview and promising to make Kevin a star. After some prodding from Marianne, Kevin reluctantly agrees. After Kevin and Marianne leave, the reporter shapeshifts into a grinning Milton, breaking the fourth wall. He says, "Vanity, definitely my favorite sin," which is a callback. He said that before, which is another great quote. This is a very quotable movie. And my initial thought was like, vanity's not one of the 7 deadly sins, but it is.
Pride. Ego. Yeah, it's pride. Ego.
And essentially, all of the 7 deadly sins can be attributed to vanity. And that's essentially, he got him the one way, and then, well, I'm going to make you a star. He's like, we did 60 Minutes and all that kind of stuff. He's like, yeah, call me tomorrow. Yeah, so we're going to take another path. Now, here's my problem with this. If the devil can just reset time and do it again, wouldn't he have won this war ages ago?
Who said it was the devil?
Right. See, that's the way I took it, is the fact that he killed himself, right? That God reset it and gave it back to him because he did something righteous to stop the plan. That's the way I took it.
Yeah, because God's not the master of the realm the movie takes place in. The devil is.
What?
He can do timelines.
Why would God reset the timeline? What advantage does he have to reset the timeline? Isn't it better for God to be like, dodge the bullet? Thank God, Thank myself. Let's move on.
I think it's better
You know?
for Ryan.
Yeah.
It's a great story. When you look at it that way, if God knows everything and he created the entire universe and every hair on your head and everything else, then he knows what you're going to do. He knows whether you choose heaven or hell. He knows whether or not you become saved or born again or not, right? Therefore, you are predestined to be one or the other. You just aren't aware of which choice you're going to make, but he is, right? And that's it's really hard to refute that when you just think about it with our finite human minds until you've experienced a reset. I mean, I remember the moment, and it was crazy because it was the moment that I said, I'm sorry, please forgive me for what I've done.
You said that
Oh, yeah.
to him?
To the
voice you were hearing?
There was no voice. It was to the creator of all things that I was speaking to.
Explain there was no voice.
It wasn't
You just
someone
felt it?
To the
speaking
Elon.
me. Well, let's do that. So sorry.
Do-overs are very rare. But in the leadership and the project management aspect of it all, second chances are a rare thing, but they do happen. But how do you rebuild when you've gone too far?
You're going to have to tell us there, Mr. Leader, Mr. Project Manager Extraordinaire, because I would be at a loss there.
I think it starts with acknowledging your mistakes.
Yeah, you got to humble up.
Owning your mistakes.
You talked about being some humility earlier.
Yeah.
You got to humble up.
Yeah. You can only learn from your mistakes if you acknowledge them.
Sure.
And only then do you have a chance to have a do-over, And in this movie, Kevin Lomax acknowledged that he's made a huge mistake, and he put the bullet to his head because free will's a bitch, right?
Right.
He didn't know he was going to get a do-over, but he did. And that's the thing. You don't know that you're going to get a do-over.
No.
But you're not going to get a do-over if you don't acknowledge the mistake, admit that you made a mistake, and learn from that mistake.
Sure.
Only then do you get that second chance.
Right.
Sometimes.
Well said.
What else do I have? Ego. It always circles back, right?
Every time.
It's a big problem.
So how do you coach, your mentorees, as a mentor, how do you coach people to stay humble when success tempts them?
Well, when has the opposite of being humble ever paid off? You know what I mean? Does it pay off at times? Sure. Right. But
I mean, I'd argue that the least humble person I've ever seen in the world right now is the leader of the free will.
sure, you can make that argument, but are they living a personal hell?
Sure doesn't
You
seem
gotta
like
think
it.
about seeing one way, but are not that way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's true. Well, and that goes to speak about our position in the world right now. We're watching this live every day. He's like, I had a talk with him. We're good friends. We're okay. Everything's going to be all right. And then you flip over and watch some, Arabian TV, and their leaders are saying, look, death to America, y'all.
Mm-hmm.
The point is, and sometimes what we're getting may not be 100% accurate, which for some time, I mean, there's a reason for that too.
Even more and more, you can't trust anything that you see with so many deep fakes and fake news.
Well, the way news is presented to us.
Yeah. I mean, we've always, for a long time, for a decade now, we've had a big issue with the mainstream media spinning the news to their own benefit. But now, everyday average Joe that pays, $40 a month for a subscription to some software can make what looks like real mainstream media.
That's right.
And make it say whatever the hell they want. You can't believe any quotes. You can't believe any video. You can't believe any pictures.
You know what else is bullshit is if you try to go out and find a news source that presents themselves as middle of the fucking road, they're out there, but you have to pay for them.
Sure.
They're not on Channel 2 or whatever.
Well, I think that's the beauty of this day and age is we're able to go online and find regular creators like ourselves who are bringing that news. And I think that is something that's monumental.
It's a double-edged
in the
blade,
media.
right?
Well,
Listen, people, if you're getting your news from me, you're wrong.
But if we were watching, CNBC, we're wrong. I mean, that's the point is that you do have the option of getting multiple facets and opinions, from different types of people nowadays.
The last thing with the movie before we jump into our breakdown of John Milton's business plan and his leadership and project management is they're ending on Paint It Black by the Rolling Stones. If you're going to pick a Rolling Stones song to end on, that's the wrong one.
No, it's right, and I'll tell you why.
Well, you're wrong, but tell me why.
The song is about
It's about grief.
grieving and losing a loved one. The whole reason why John Milton's plan went to shit is because Kevin losing his loved one made him unpredictable, and Milton had no.
That's a pretty good argument. I figured that they wanted the I forgot the name of the other Rolling Stones song.
Symphony of the Devil.
Sympathy for the Devil.
Yes.
Is it Sympathy for the Devil?
You can't get Rolling Stone songs.
Symphony of the Devil.
Well, I looked it up. 3 years before this one in 1994, the Interview with the Vampire ended on that song.
Yeah.
And I think that they probably wanted to end on that song, but was like, we can't because we'd be, knocking off Interview with the Vampire. So they chose Paint It Black.
To introduce myself. I'm a man.
That would have been the right song,
Yeah,
man.
yeah.
But
I've been around for a
Black
long
works
year.
for the reasons you just said. I'm going to give you that one, Seth. Good job. John Milton's hypothetical business plan in the Devil's Advocate Inc. Or Dominion Holdings International.
Love it.
With their founder, John Milton, aka Lucifer. Their industry is legal services, real estate development, corporate acquisition, and soul procurement. I've created a mission statement for them to acquire, elevate, and control high-performing humans by maximizing their ambition, exploiting moral weaknesses, and removing all friction between desire and decision.
His goal is to create the Antichrist.
Yeah. He's got a risk management.
He's not good at risk management.
Well, he's got a process, a system. That's the word I was looking for, a system. They avoid direct intervention by limiting supernatural exposure and minimizing legal liability. They maintain plausible deniability. People make their own choices. And they have this PR strategy, the freedom of choice. That's their branding, their public image. You know what I'm saying?
I like it.
He's got an exit strategy, eternal reign through systemic corruption across multiple industries, and the collapse of personal accountability industry-wide. So that's fun. But at the end of the day, we're here to score the Devil's project management and leadership. So on a scale from 1 to 5, for scope management, I'm going to give him the dude a 5. He knows exactly what he wants.
Certainly. He keeps the eye on the prize no matter the size of the scope does not change for him.
Right.
He understands eternity. Sure.
And the same thing for time management. I'm giving him a 5. He plays the infinite long game. For risk management, I'm going to give him a 4. He's really great at minimizing risk, but he gets in the end blindsided by that emotional variable.
Well, he's emotionally retarded.
I don't know. He understands emotion and he plays on that, but
that ego got a hold of him.
He understands humans' emotions, but he ain't got no emotions.
Yeah. For communication, I'm giving him a 5. He's a master persuader. He knows exactly what to say, exactly what his target wants to hear.
It gets you with truth too.
Well, behind every good lie is shrouded with truth. Look at that.
Stakeholder management, that's where he starts to lose me. I gave him a 3. He doesn't handle dissent or instability very well. There's really no safety net when people start to crack.
I gave him a 4 because he's great at managing literally everyone else, the firm, everyone. He manages all that shit great. He doesn't manage his main fucking guy that he's going for, right, for his whole project because because of the unpredictability.
But what about the guy that was gonna rat him out to Weaver that he had to kill in the park, managing him?
Well, I think it's.
He killed him. What do you mean he didn't do a good job? He was like,
right, but
that's not a good. Layoffs aren't good. If you got to fire somebody, that's not a good. You're not managing them well.
Okay,
but there's no real bad repercussion to that. He's already got the soul. He's already won. So even if you just throw him in the garbage, you've already won that.
Well, I didn't give him a 1 or a 0. I gave him a 3.
That's more risk management, I guess, huh?
And then did you rate not John, Kevin also?
No.
Okay. All right.
Because at the end of the day, he's a patsy in this whole thing.
Yeah. Well, but you know what? I looked at Mary Ann as his shareholder, and I felt like he really let her down all throughout the whole thing. I rated his risk management and risk tolerance, right?
Yeah.
Both horrible. He couldn't tolerate the losses at all. That's why he ended up shooting himself at the end. That's why he went through the whole thing. He wasn't good at risk assessment either. He just kept on going blind with his ego and ambition. But anyway, go right ahead.
The last I've got on the project management scorecard for the Devil's ethics, and I gave him a negative 666.
I love it.
I gave him a 0 because I mean, ethics. There are no ethics.
No.
There's no ethics with this guy. You know.
No.
So overall, for project management, I give the Devil a 4.5.
4.5. I
Yeah.
think that's solid.
I give him a
That's
4.
solid.
I give him a 4. Yeah, I think he's great at both leadership and project management, but that risk management and the stakeholder
Yep.
lacks that little much on those fronts.
In the end, you know, this movie was, the whole thing was the ambition and the ego
Yeah.
of Kevin. Yet the interesting little ironic twist is that it was the Devil's own ego that was his own folly in the end.
He's tactically brilliant, but he's morally bankrupt.
Sure.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
who might be morally bankrupt, arrogant, and overconfident. It's a recipe for disaster. How can you be? I mean, obviously, we've seen that you can be a good leader and a good project manager, but if you have those weaknesses, you're doomed for failure.
Okay, leadership. So the traits I'm looking at are vision, motivation, empathy, self-control, coaching and development, and humility. So for vision, 5. Crystal clear, long-term world domination plan. Motivation, 5. He knows exactly how to trigger people's ambition and manipulate them in that sense. Empathy, 1. Yeah, he uses people and never supports them. Self-control, 2. He gets emotional when challenged, you know, is blinded by pride. Coaching and development, 3. He builds successors, but he manipulates them, and he doesn't really mentor very well. And then humility, 0. He literally brags that pride is his favorite sin, or vanity is his favorite sin. 2.5.
2.5 in leadership.
Yep.
There you go. So project management was 4.5. Leadership, we're looking at 2.5.
2.5.
There you go. That's solid. Yeah, I think you're right on with those numbers, man. I can't even argue with this time. The last one, we had some disparity.
Yeah.
This one, I got to say, you're pretty well
He's a
spot on.
powerful leader, but only for a little while. And then, you know, he collapses under his own ego.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
What did you think? Did you agree on those?
No, I thought a good leader. I scored 4 on both leadership and project.
Okay.
I think that he was good across the board, except for these little aspects where he almost made it, and then it all goes back to Kevin becoming unpredictable whenever Charlize Theron offed herself. You know what I mean? The Devil's plan worked out up until that moment, because that was the moment where Kevin became unpredictable, and I mean, you got to be able to speak to unpredictability.
In that emotional state. I mean, it's anybody would have been, but I think that's what. And really, I mean, it was a great plan. You've got to isolate them. You know, you got to break them. If you can break them psychologically and isolate them, you can control them. I think he just needed to get
real.
Certainly. If he had just kept his boisterous mouth shut, he would have been having sex with that Christabel. They would have had the Antichrist. That would have been the end of it. Yeah.
I love the scene where John Milton's getting on the elevator with those 2 hotties. He's like, "Come on, join us. We'll talk about the case." And he's like, he looks at his wife, and then he looks at the girls, and he's like, "Nah."
And he goes fights with his wife.
He's like, "You sure?" And he's like, "Yeah." And then he does this. He flicks his tongue.
Yes,
like a
yes,
snake.
so disgusting.
Al Pacino, the shit. That's my dog.
Yeah, he did
Okay.
the tongue flick.
I have 10 philosophical questions here. But the first 3 are on free will versus manipulation. So number 1, is free will truly free, or is it just the illusion of choice when you're being manipulated by outside forces?
That's a good question, because I believe in free will, and I believe that God can also interject with his spiritual magic, like we saw the devil do his spiritual magic, right? So if there's free will, it's kind of contradictory, right? There's free will, but he can like move upon here and there, right?
Yeah. I want to believe that free will is absolutely a thing, that the idea that the only reason people do the right thing is out of fear of eternal damnation is just a load of bullshit.
So you don't believe in a conscience?
I think there absolutely are people that only do the right thing out of fear of eternal damnation. But I think that the meaning of life is to do the right thing regardless of personal gain or
which is a conscience. And I choose to believe that your conscience, that thing inside you that screams, don't do that, that's fucking wrong. Or, do this. This is the right thing to do. I believe that that's what is talked about, how you're in the image of God. That to me is the image of God screaming out of you.
Number 2, does knowing you're being tempted make the temptation easier or harder to resist?
I think theoretically it should be easier to resist because you're aware of it.
Mhm.
However, a real temptation is a temptation is a temptation is a temptation.
I mean, essentially, does self-awareness always save you?
No, definitely not. Hey, I got this little baggie. You sure you don't want to come over here and do this? Look, I know it's bad for you, but I got it for you.
Look at drug addicts. Yeah.
Yeah.
And given enough time, you always justify it. Like there's always that little guy, right?
Mhm.
That's like, it's just a joint. What's it gonna do? You don't know it's
peer
laced
pressure.
with fentanyl. You know what I'm saying?
Good Lord. I'm so glad I got out of the game before that. Oh, I'm telling you, man,
No,
it's
good.
scary watching this stuff on TV. People dropping like
kidding.
flies.
So if people fail because they choose poorly, but they were given every incentive to choose poorly, who's actually responsible?
No one's responsible. Why is there responsibility? If
Someone has to take ownership of that decision. I think it has to be the individual. Just like, as parents, it's our job to teach our kids, hey, the world sucks. You will be presented with these things, and these are the consequences of your actions. Make them aware, but ultimately, guess who gets to go do that time when they make that choice? Guess who loses their house, their life, their job, their family, everything? The individual.
Yeah, at the end of the day, you're the biggest victim of your own choices.
That's it. So I think it's up to the individual to take ownership.
Yeah, but it sounds so sinister. Why does it have to sound so sinister, like you've done something wrong? You just made accidents happen. You make mistakes. I mean, you're all about making mistakes and then learning from them.
It goes back to what I was saying. The idea that people go, well, the devil made me do it. It doesn't absolve you.
Right. That's the point is, sure, we all make mistakes and we should learn from them. The fact of the matter is they still have to be paid for, and the mistakes aren't free.
100%. At what point does ambition, okay, we're on to leadership temptation. At what point does ambition stop being healthy drive and become destructive obsession?
Oh, immediately, because it's almost always going to turn into that, right?
Oh,
No, I think when
I
you're
think
aware,
ambition's a good thing.
I think that comes down to the whole realization of sin.
I'm putting context into my answer from the movie. Ambition was bad.
So, yeah, it becomes destructive obsession when it becomes self-serving and you stop caring about the people around you.
There you go. There you go. That's great.
Yeah, ambition based on what? Based on your own personal shit, or based on the survival of your family, or the greater good of the community?
Like
intent matters.
Like, let's say you're a salesman and, you're trying to make a big sale, but, well, I got to take this guy to the golf course. I got to go to the titty bar with them. I got to fly to Tahiti with them. I got to go to the pedophile island in the Bahamas. At some point we've gone from healthy drive and ambition to destructive obsession,
Ain't no party like a Diddy party.
Number 5, can you lead people toward excellence without also exposing them to destructive levels of ambition?
Yeah, be able to. Why ambition doesn't have to be a requirement, does it? I mean, I guess to an extent it does, because without ambition, are you going to get off the couch? Does ambition mean drive?
I mean, sure. Yeah, the ambition is that drive to get things done. I think it's an important thing to have for any successful person.
Does ambition imply it's never enough? You always want that extra step? Or does ambition just mean...
And that's what I'm saying.
And get up and go.
All things, do all things in moderation.
When you're leading your people, you want them to do well, right? And you want them to grow in their position and rise in the company, but you don't want them to get so ambitious that they start to seek a better, higher position at a different firm or a different company. You know what I mean?
That's a beautiful... Me and you did that with...
I mean, it can...
We did that with those companies over in West Texas.
Just outgrow them. Move past it. Move on.
Well, it wasn't me. It was him. I just was like, yeah, let's do this.
But it's a quandary,
Sure.
You want to have good employees, and you want them to build up and do well and rise up through the ranks. But then if you lose them to another company, then
you're creating competition, and competition is a good thing. Competition's great, right?
Yeah, but then you have to start from square one
You know,
and train somebody else.
You know what I think?
Those
And you have competition that you trained.
that's implying
You know?
those were the only employees you had. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah, I
when
think
we
some of
left that
that's-
company and started our own company, they did fine without us. You know what I mean? You were arguably their top guy. And
I
when you
think-
left, they did fine.
I think some of that comes down to a
But you said it. Sorry to interrupt. You said it. What is it? What is that saying you say?
A rising tide raises all ships.
right.
Yeah.
And I have said in the past with employees, I was doing fine before you, and I'll do fine after. You know,
Sure.
Sorry, I interrupted.
No, I was just going to say, I think that a lot of that comes down to, when you're in a project management or leadership role, some of that comes into multiple departments working together. You have your recruitment side, okay? Then knows what they're looking for. They're looking for the stars. They're looking for the ones who can get up and do the job and make sure that it happens and that they're not a loser, right? Then you have the trainees or the trainers, right? The ones who are building up the teachers, the ones who are getting them to excel and to be good and be better. And some of those people are shooting stars. They're gonna shoot higher than what that company has to offer. You be happy for them. Give them a good recommendation when they go off to the next place. But there are a large amount of people that don't do that. And that's where the recruitment comes in. Know which ones you're talking to.
but not only that, but fairly compensate them and give them good benefits and make them feel, not family. Because at the end of the day, they're not your family.
No.
And
Just
don't try to make them think that you are their family. I hate that.
It's supposed to be like a mindset.
Yeah.
Well, it makes you feel like you owe them something. It makes you feel, look.
It's
we all-
manipulative.
Yes, it is. We all want to belong. And I do this within my own company. We have the plant family where we all belong. There's a community there. At the same
Mark
time,
hates that.
yeah, well, you have to know where to start it and where to stop it. And the reason I say that, like we have a Discord server, and the server's not named after our company at all because I want people to feel inclusive, right? Like they belong there. We have a lot of people that have come into the fold who end up being sellers, right? So competition, in truth.
Yeah.
So I built them a couple of channels for them. Here's your seller chat. Here's a place for you to post your links for everyone else to see and to do all that. And if you were successful and fantastic, great, we got here together, right? At the same time, we do not allow certain things here that cause those problems, like selling inside the community, right? I'm not going to sell in the community. You can't sell in the community either. But we do belong. We all want a place to belong. And then I'll tell it because I used to have a few.
It's not a marketplace; it's a community.
Right. Well, I also had a few that they would feel too indentured, right? They would say, "Oh, well, my show is at 2:00 in the afternoon because I don't want it to infringe on your show at 7 a.m." And I had to publicly say, "Go get yours." Look, we're all individuals here in the end, and look, I love you as a human being. Your kids want you to make as much money as you possibly can. Go get it when you need to get it, regardless of what we're doing. There's enough out there for all of us, y'all. Yeah, I think those stipulations and those little guidelines within a community keep it from being a malevolent place.
What's that?
On the devil's business model, is Satan's greatest tool really punishment, or is it simply giving people everything they ever wanted?
The latter.
We're back to that.
But I wouldn't phrase it the way you just phrased it.
No.
Or we're back to that vanity is my favorite sin.
Yes.
At the end of the day, I think that the way that the Christians tend to interpret it is the God's greatest tools.
Could be. I know that in my own life, there was a time where I had an individual that,
punch.
That's the idea is that,
Sure.
you be a good Christian and you do the right thing and you don't sin, or you will, spend eternity in damnation. Like we
You'll
do.
spend eternity and damnation, or you don't get the final gift that I have to offer you.
right.
I think it's that.
Right. Yeah. Textually speaking, that's correct.
Right.
Dogmatically speaking, you're right.
Right.
Like that's what we're taught in church, but that's what's written.
Yeah.
Yes.
This is the problem, man.
Well, that's why I'm
It's
writing
like-
the stuff
It
I'm
is the
writing.
problem. It is the problem. All right. Number 7, in business and leadership, are our worst mistakes usually caused by scarcity or abundance? The fear of not having enough versus getting too much.
I think it's generally fear, whichever way you go, because with fear comes stupidity. Like that's the first thing that happens when you get scared. You do stupid shit. I mean, in my experiences, that's how every time I've ever screwed up is when I was afraid that we weren't making enough. I was afraid we weren't hitting numbers. I was afraid that things weren't going to get done in time.
And so that fear could be, on both sides of that. In scarcity, it's,
Yep.
I fear that we don't have enough and we're not going to get enough. And in abundance, it's, I fear that we're going to lose what we have.
Certainly, certainly. Well, we're not going to stay on top. Oh my goodness. Well, we might lose, our 10 great guys that are fantastic that we built up. Exactly.
It's a good outlook. On accountability and redemption, is one catastrophic mistake enough to define your soul, or can people rebuild after failure?
People can rebuild after failure. That's your whole MO.
That is my whole MO.
And it's 1,000% true.
Yeah, I agree.
I have failed over and at many things that would, things that crush a man.
I think that's an interesting part of this movie. And I think it is more profound than a lot of people really took note of, is that last scene in the movie. 100%. It's, you got the reset and continue to make the mistakes. Unknowingly, look, that happens to all of us. All of you.
Now we're just going to make some different mistakes.
That's right. It's a different set of mistakes.
Yeah.
How are you going to fall for it the next time?
Yep.
Will you have learned and fall for another thing? But it is part of the human element.
Number 9, if the devil exploits our weaknesses, is mastering leadership really about mastering yourself first?
Yes. I can't believe
That's a great question. Yeah, that's a great question.
Yeah, 100%. It's 100% about mastering yourself first. All right, final question on the system itself. Is the real devil in the devil's advocate the individual or the system, legal, corporate, political, that rewards unethical behavior?
The system is used by the devil. The system is not the devil. He even says it in the movie. He says, the question is, why law or whatever? And he's like, because law is where it happens, baby.
Right. At the end of the day, the
law is where.
At the end of the day, the law firm is just as demonic as the devil himself.
Sure.
And so, yeah, the system is part of the problem. Is the problem?
It's easily corruptible.
Yes.
Yeah, well, it has its fingers in everything.
Doesn't matter if we're talking, the legal system, the corporate system, the political system, the religious system, the church, the educational system.
I think the system is a tool. I think the system itself is a tool, and it can be used one way or the other. In the book we were talking about the other day, the Screwtape letters, it's really an interesting thing. Screwtape's talking to his nephew Wormwood, and he says, so you asked me the question about your charge, your patient, the person who you're in charge of, falling in love. Is it a good thing or a bad thing? Well, it's neither good nor bad. It's how you use it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. How do you use that love that he has for this person? Do you let them be happily ever after, or do you use this love to plant a seed of doubt or to plant a seed of guilt? Or how do you utilize it? Nothing is truly good or evil. It's how do you use it? Yeah. As a tempter. He was talking from one tempter to another tempter.
Yeah.
Sure.
Final thoughts. You got any, Seth?
I'm glad I waited to now to watch the movie. I wouldn't have, especially through this lens. I think we said this before, but watching these movies through the lens of a leader and a project manager it's super fun.
Sure.
And it's, you naturally apply these things and these lessons that these villains are or are not learning to yourself, and you're like, you unlearn shit from Al Pacino today.
You should. He's a master.
I love it, man. Oh, Al, great actor. The devil's not gonna win. Well, I wanted to ask you guys that. Do you think did the light win? Did good win
in that movie?
Mm-hmm.
It was still open. It was a cliffhanger.
The battle continues.
Yeah, it was a cliffhanger. Every good story is.
Maybe it won that round.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Mm-hmm.
But then round 2.
I like that answer. Did y'all notice how Kevin's suit in the beginning was like light colored, and then towards the end of the movie it just got dark?
It took it to darker. No, I didn't notice that. No, but that makes sense. I mean, it makes sense for what they did a whole lot of metaphorical shite.
The symbolism was.
Yes.
They used color for symbolism all over this movie, and there was a scene where Kevin's like running, I think, to go check on Elise or something like that, but he runs by a subway terminal or something, and there's all these different colored signs and they spell out mixing messages. And there's no reason for mixing messages to be in New York at a subway station. It was for us
Sure.
Yeah.
to show you that we're using colors.
You know
to
the
send
scene where he
messages.
walks out in the street and the street's empty?
Right.
I thought for sure that was like a sound stage. That was an actual New York City street. They filmed it like first thing in the morning on a Sunday morning. And that
Wow.
just managed to catch the street with nobody on it.
They didn't block it off and make it where nobody was there.
It might have blocked, I don't know, but
Yeah.
yeah.
It was real.
Did you notice how in the movie the devil roams around the city underground
Yeah,
in the subways?
I think I read on IMDb or
That's
something
great.
that they wanted to make it, and they kind of said, I always travel by the subway, learn the subways,
That's
They
right.
wanted to make it so
Subterranean.
like the subways were like the rings of hell, that was his.
That was
like it.
so the first draft, the one that Al Pacino didn't like, turned down. That it was very CGI heavy, and in that portion or that time, the movie was like a lot of it took place in the subway, and that was like the demonic realm.
Yeah.
In the movie or some shit
Yeah.
like that.
Interesting.
And I was
like-
like, no.
Yeah, I love the symbolism they took in this. That was one of the main things that drew me to this movie. There again, just like you said, I'm glad that I watched it again in 2025 with a different lens.
Yeah.
Totally, because I remember watching it and being enamored by the character, by John Milton's character. Initially when I was 17, when I watched this, and wow, what a charismatic dude that made this happen. Now I watch it and I say, what an old pervert.
What a sleaze.
Yeah, what a sleazy, lewd ass old dude. Yeah, totally different societal view.
Charlize, drop your hair. What a creeper. Over there, Joe Biden and Charlize Theron.
Yeah. Chris, you got any final thoughts?
I think that this movie put forth a psychological element that very closely resembles modern humanity, and in a timeless way. I say modern, but truly humanity in a timeless way. It's not so much the horrible things that the devil will do in your life, right? But the ways that he manipulates you to do what you were already capable of doing yourself. It's always your own decision that leads you to damnation.
Learn
So-
from those mistakes, people.
And that's where I'm going with my final thought is that at the end of the day, there's always going to be, the devil in the details. There's always going to be temptation. Own your mistakes when you make them. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to do the wrong thing. Nobody's perfect except for, JC, and even he made mistakes when he was in the physical realm. Go out and make those mistakes and don't be ashamed of them. Shame is a natural thing that we all experience, but get over it, move on with your life and learn, and then mentor and teach other people about the mistakes that you made so that they don't go out there and have to make those mistakes and they can go make their own mistakes and tread new ground.
Do you mean to tell me, Mark, that they should attend the Hard Knock School of Project Management?
Just attend the Hard Knock University, even if it's not project management, whatever it is that makes you tick, whatever it is that you're out there doing, do it and fuck it up and then get up and do it again. And eventually you're going to get it right. You might make 10,000 mistakes, but number 10,001 could be a home run. You'll only know if you get out there and do it.
If the viewers out there only had 7 hard lessons to learn, the hard way, where might they find information about how to navigate those hardships?
LeadershipKnox.com. And if you're not on Substack, you've got to get on Substack. Check out leadershipknox.substack.com. Chris, tell the folks where they can find you.
That will be at ChristopherCDay.com.
All right, rock and roll. Everybody, thanks for tuning in. I appreciate it. Love you. I'm rooting for you. Good night, everybody.